Hey everyone, welcome back to Faith in the Fallout. In this episode, Mark and I have a conversation with a licensed therapist regarding spiritual abuse and the effects it can have on people. Stay tuned. Welcome to Faith in the Fallout. My name is Kyle Drake. With me again today is Mark. How are you, Mark?
I am well. I am trying to survive the schizophrenic weather of Michigan. So I'm doing my best. I run in the mornings.
You got up to 60 today, and then that's as far. It was 60 when I woke up, and it was still at 60 right now. So
yeah, I run in the mornings, and it's been like every day. Like today, I ran in shorts and a t-shirt, and it felt like the day before I was literally in like thermal leggings and a coat, and then the day before was shorts and a t-shirt, and then tomorrow it looks like I'll be running in a coat, and I'll survive. I'll persevere.
Well, with us today as well, we have my friend Eric. Eric, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Eric Kelly, and I've had a lot of different vocations. The one I had the longest was in education, as an educator. 100 years ago, I was in college for psychology, and I wanted to become a music therapist because that's what was really cool back then. I know you can't see me, but I'm follically challenged currently. And when I was in my 20s, I had long hair, right? So I was in a band, and I was at a Christian church. You know, it's a hybrid church, really. And Palm Beach Atlantic University, go Sailfish. And I wanted to be a psychiatrist or psychologist, and then also incorporate music. So that was a great dream. Then I graduated. And at 21 years old, I started to have an internship in a hospital. So it was hospice care. I was not quite ready for that at 21 years old. So I quickly pivoted and went into education. So I started working in group homes for kids, and that's where they had schools. And so I really loved working with the kids and families. So I decided, hey, maybe I'll work with kids in school setting. So I did that for quite some time, and ended up getting a degree on top of another degree. So I got a bunch of different degrees and in education. The last one being an ed specialist degree, which allowed me to be a principal for 8 years. So in that system for quite a while, all along being involved in church since I was, as long back as I can remember, right? And so those systems, being very familiar with those systems. And then I went back to school, got my master's in social work. So now I'm a psychotherapist, and I work with kids and families in the capacity I wanted to 100 years ago, but now without the hair. So it's fantastic. It's lots of, it really is truly a gift and fun. And I learned so much about what has happened as I'm helping others learn about what's happening to them. So that's been really helpful. I have spent a significant time in the church, both volunteering and being involved with music ministry, and being involved with kids ministry, and being involved with pseudo administrative roles in that capacity in several different churches through college, early marriage, and then also in just recently. So yeah, that's my story. Quick story.
All right.
Yeah.
So then what do you want to go into next?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Do you
want me just to talk about
what's happening? Okay. Just go for it.
What's happening in the world? What's happening? We'll be specific in. Okay.
The floor is yours. So.
Okay. Well, when I think about what's happening, it's everywhere, like the spiritual misconduct, right? It's not just in one denomination or one part of the world. It's everywhere. And you keep hearing names pop up that are famous people, right? And so all of the information that I've learned and all of the theories and constructs and all the information that I want to talk about with the both of you is as an amalgamation of not just my own experience. It's not just anecdotal. It's like research-based information. It is experiential things, but also those deeper spiritual elements of we're still trying to fight against evil, right? So just thinking about the simplicity of the church's design is to be for the people and shepherd the people, right? And bring them close to God, right? We are in him, he is in us, like the vine, the branches. Anyway, all of the things that I will be talking about, it's got so many influences, right? People who I've listened to repeatedly. I mean, think of Dan Allender and John Eldridge, and even people who just speak out in that community. Think of the podcast of the Mars Hill.
All those things. Rise and Fall of Mars.
Yeah, Rise and Fall. I mean, that long form journalism. There's been so much information talking about spiritual abuse, talking about systems that are abusive, and that is of the utmost importance, I think, today more than ever. Right? It feels like that. Right? So when I think about spiritual abuse, the first thing that comes to mind is something that I know Dan Allender talks about in a book. And Dan Allender, you can look him up. He's done a lot of work on abuse and spiritual abuse as well. But he mentions that all abuse, regardless of the qualifier before the word abuse, is physical abuse. And I like that concept, and I believe that to be true in the sense of this. We know that physical abuse is physical abuse. Sexual abuse is, abuse against the body. But emotional abuse and spiritual abuse is also physical abuse because of what it does to your body, right? And so the abuse cycle and the systems that are abusive, it is this little circle of like anger, and then blame, and then short remorse. And then the most insidious part is there's kindness, which circles back to aggression, right? It just goes over and over and over again. And how that manifests itself in the body is, spiritually speaking and emotionally speaking, it's your mind, right? The trauma that's created in the body is stuck in the body. We've heard that a bunch. And that's, we know who, Bester Van Kolk did all that work. But we're talking about how, and a lot of people have perfected his information from there. But it is get trapped in our bodies. And it starts with what we start to think about, right? And how we think about the events that have happened is the trauma. So we talk about in therapy, there's big T trauma and small T trauma. So big T trauma is an obvious event, right? The death of somebody, being in war, safety, being extracted from an individual. There's lots of examples of that. Growing up in an abusive home, like those are large T trauma events. But there's also small T trauma, which is these repeated things that happen to us. It's not about the event that happened. It's how we keep remembering those events over and over again, right? So in the sense of when I have small T trauma, it is how I choose to rethink about what's happened to me. And the research shows that that's more damaging to your mind and body than anything else. And how trauma here's a little phrase that I talk about a lot, like talking about the truth, and the truth will help you, but it doesn't help you unless you let it, right? So, for example, if you're talking about something that's happened to me, an abusive situation, whatever it may be, you have to tell someone that information. When you tell them, that doesn't clear your body of the feeling of it. What it does is it allows you to have a starting point. So telling the truth and then allowing that truth to be heard by an empathetic witness. Those are the things that help lower levels of trauma, right? So an empathetic witness to the events that have happened. When you do that, the trauma over time gets metabolized, right? And if you don't talk about it and you don't share the story, and you don't have to share the story in this format exactly, right? But sharing the truth with someone who's trusted to as an empathetic witness helps you metabolize the trauma. Because without metabolizing the trauma, it comes out in all kinds of aberrations. Physically speaking, it causes ailments, anything that ends in an itis, colitis, arthritis, it's inflammation in the body, right? And what is inflammation? It's the withholding of, it holds blood and fluid in the tissue where it's meant to protect, right? But without it being released, what does it cause? Harm, right? And so as a runner, like inflammation happens. And when you are running, you push through that pain. But when you are done with the run, you come back, you make sure you're hydrating, and you even ice bath, you even do all kinds of things to lower the inflammation. And if you ever twist your ankle, you never take off your shoe, right? You're like, because it will just blow up. And so that restrictive element of talking about the truth. So there's some boundary there. If I talk about the truth and I allow someone to hear it, which is a very, very difficult process to get to.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen easily. It happens because the pain of staying the same can't continue.
Yeah.
And you say it to someone and they give the feedback. That's horrible. And we can go into attachment styles. There are two camps of attachment styles. I'll just say that real quick because we may get to that some other point. Attachment styles as in how you gain your attachment style as a child in the first year of life. And then there's earned attachment, which is the socially speaking relationship after the fact. So a quick little précis on that would be like, you can grow up and be, the easiest thing to talk about is either attached or detached or disorganized attachment. But if you don't have attachment, then you have really a lot of trouble as a child. And then as an adult, the worst case is reactive attachment disorder, where you can't attach to a human being because of abuse, right? Now, that can be hardwired in a person, but hardwired means you can cut and splice wires. It's not something that is set in stone. All right. So that's a good analogy to think of. And so as you grow, you can change the way you attach to people. I mentioned that because I forgot his name, but there's a great author, famous. Sorry, I can't remember his name, but he talks about how we have spiritual attachment, right? Like to God, we have attachment issues with God based on what our earliest experience is with the church. Or even like a lot of people come to church and they've never been, and then they get plugged in or engaged and it becomes something other. And then what happens? We've seen it so many times. They get burned and hurt by the church, and then what do? And in our experiences, they're like, they're out, right? And like in our experiences, we've been in churches for a long time and then been harmed by churches. And it's still, and I know I've talked with you about it, Kyle, like to be in a church service and hear something that is remotely similar to something else, what happens?
Get triggered.
We get activated. Our nervous system is now activated. And now our body is telling us this is not safe, just like physical or sexual abuse. And Dan Allender also talks about how closely spiritual abuse and sexual abuse is related. Because in our experiences, how you're like feeling so great to be involved in the church, to have a position of some kind, to be speaking from the stage or singing, or to be helping behind the scenes and helping. You physically feel this like, oh man, this is the best thing ever. And then when the cycle of abuse happens and it somehow gets to where maybe you start to notice something or ask questions, and what happens when you start asking questions? That's when the vitriol comes out and the anger comes out, and you're now suddenly treated as if what's wrong with you? You don't have enough faith. You don't have enough hope. You're not a person who believes in the right way. And then what do you feel in your body? Shame. And you're like, oh my goodness, the problem is me. Now, when you say that phrase, the problem is me, in some cases, of course, we're not perfect, right? But in the case, if you're saying, hey, I noticed the pastor or leader or elders are doing this, and you ask questions and it's met with, you don't get to ask those questions. Then it's telling your body that those feelings that you had, the arousal, and I use that word purposely because that's kind of tricky, right? But we were aroused by and not sexually speaking, but arousal structures are, my body is activated. I'm feeling excited.
A physical response.
Yeah. Yeah. And so and then to be used against you, to like, oh, you need to work another 20 hours for free. And why aren't you here on a certain day? Or how dare you say something negative you don't understand? Or, you don't get to talk about that with anybody. And it's like, anyway, that's the part that is, just to go back to the main point, which is all abuse is physical. Yeah. And spiritual abuse, it's so insidious because people are using language like, well, God told me, or this is what faith is supposed to look like, or this is what you're supposed to be doing with it. And oh my goodness, it starts to really fragment internally who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have so many threads I want to pull on. So I don't want to derail you because all of it is fascinating. But like one of the things that Kyle and I often talk about is in this realm of conversation where we're talking about physical abuse. Rarely do people question the reality of physical abuse. Like you can point to the bruise, you can point to the physical action that took place, and people would say, oh yeah, well, of course abuse took place there. But there's just something about spiritual abuse or even emotional abuse that people would just say like, well, how do you tell? Like, how do you know? Like maybe you're just too sensitive. Maybe you are the problem. Like you were just saying, maybe you're the problem. Maybe like they're trying to encourage you. They want what's best for you. They love you. They're trying to, build you up into this person that God called you to be, but you're just so sensitive that you're saying it's abuse. And that's something that Kyle and I often talk about is like, how do you get people to even to just ask the question, is the way I was treated wrong? Not to say definitively that every person that's been to the church is an automatic victim of spiritual abuse, but just to ask the question, was it wrong the way I was talked to, the way I was treated, the way I was manipulated, or whatever it might be? So I guess that's a question I would throw to you. Like when that question arises in your experience or even in your own head, like how do you get to the point of showing someone, I can't point to a physical bruise on my arm. How do you point to a brain bruise when it comes to these questions?
But not a physical brain bruise. It's like you can find those.
Yeah, a mind bruise.
So you're saying if someone says, how do you know if what you've experienced is abuse?
Yeah, like I would say, Kyle, I don't want to speak for you, but like in my own experience of talking about my story, the almost immediate response from people tends to be, well, you're just being too sensitive. Like that's not real abuse. That's just a person, they're just.
It's just your boss swearing at you.
Yeah, it's just, your pastor curses you out in a meeting, but like he's just a little rough around the edges. That's just the way he is. And, who's to say if that's really wrong or not?
Yeah, there. Like I said, the Allender Center has done a lot of work on this, but there's actually, I was trying to look it up. There's like a little, if you've experienced this in the church, you may have spiritual abuse. And if you give me a second, I can find it.
Yeah, you can look it up.
But even so, I mean, like, look at all the comments that we got on Spotify for the negative comments from the Westlands episodes, and maybe half of them are, well, that's not abuse. It's not real abuse. And I mean, we've addressed that since day one of coming out with either of our stories of talking about it, of people just being like, I mean, that is a seemingly base response from people.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we're talking about the Radiant side when person A, like said one of the elders was touching him sexually.
Yeah.
And people are just like, it's fine.
But who's to say if it's sexual?
Yeah. We're like, well, how do you know if it was? I'm like, excuse me?
It's almost this weird thing where it's like
is at minimum harassment. That's the base harassment.
Yeah.
And it goes up from there. Like, what do you mean? It's fine. What do you mean you don't even call back that person church?
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, my soapbox again.
Well, it's almost like there's this, like, I don't know. It shows the brilliance of God and his prophets. Like I think of David and was it Nathan? Yeah, Nathan, the prophet, where Nathan tells David the story of this abuse that's taken place, but doesn't use David's name. And then David's like, oh man, that person, like, how could they do such a thing? And then Nathan's like, well, that's you are that man. And I think about it in that, like, in this context where it's like, if you remove it from the fact that you're talking about someone's pastor, like if you were to talk about it in a more blind context, people would just take it and say like, oh, well, of course that's a horrible thing. That's a horrible thing that would happen. And then you say, well, yeah, your pastor's doing it. And they're like, well, like, but context matters and who's to really say? It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah, when you talked about the, how do people like come alongside of the system and support it? Right? Mm-hmm. Every system is designed to protect itself. No matter what system it is. Like just think of your family system, like it's designed for protection. Mm-hmm. And so when a threat comes, you're like, hold on, let's be careful, right? But in systems that are steeped in lies and misinterpretations and smoke and mirrors, the truth looks eerily suspicious. Mm. So when you talk about the truth in a system that is unable to hold intention, oh, we could be wrong here. And that is not, you've been in situations where like, I know if I say they could be wrong, I'm going to get hammered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, not just in the churches, like in all kinds of, business sense, you're like, oh, I don't have to deal with that, or I can get out. But in churches, like I said, the spiritual part of it and the physical part, your body is resisting talking about the truth because you're like, I can't be jettisoned from this community. I think Brené Brown talks about belonging is the enemy of authenticity. Like, I think that's what I quote. It's like, so like we value belonging to something more than we do value authentic. We'll give up authenticity to feel like we belong. And like, how many times in the church do you see people come in and maybe rise to the ranks like too quickly or without proper tutelage or just care and love? And suddenly they're the new person with the hammer. And you're like, oh my goodness. Like, that's so sad to witness. They become the people who are in partnering in the abusive structure, right? And then you talk about, well, who's a victim and who's the predator, or who's the abusive person and who's the victim. It's like, well, the abuser is also a victim of something, aren't they? Mm-hmm. How did they get to that space? They weren't born like that.
Right.
Like, they weren't born with the desire to get into a system that's supposed to be about love and care and shepherding and encouragement and people being connected to God at all cost, to being, well, I'm going to steal some money, or I'm going to have an affair with my secretary. Like that's not the way they started out. So that's a whole other question about how structures get to that point. But this is like I said, a checklist from the Allender Center talks about the following items that you or someone you may know may have experienced spiritual abuse. Feeling disconnected from your desires or experiencing shame related to your desires. Okay. Disregarding your intuition or feeling, unable to trust your gut.
Oh, that's a big one.
Being dismissed or silenced when questioning or expressing doubts. Facing threats, coercion, or the threat of being cut off when attempting to leave a religious group. Inadvertently supporting and promoting harmful ideas and theologies that perpetuate spiritual abuse. Struggling to trust yourself to make decisions about your life. Holding skepticism toward religious authorities and religious systems. Experiencing shame concerning sexuality, eroticism, often associated with purity culture. Being subjected to various forms of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, by individuals who exploited their spiritual authority. having profound doubts and uncertainties about how God perceives you, what God thinks of you, and your relationship with God. Wrestling with deep uncertainties about the nature of God. Is God inherently good? Is God even real? If you've identified with one or more, you may have suffered or continue to suffer through spiritual abuse.
Yeah, and I think the issue with a lot of those is like there's truth in them, in terms of like the Bible says things that offend me. Right. And so I think that things get thrown into that bucket too, of like, oh, well, you're just offended by the preaching or the teaching or whatnot. And be like, no, I'm offended because my pastor lied to me and told me to lie to other people. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going. I think I'm just seeing the tension that we've run into through this whole process is that one there is a lot of like these leaders, they take things that have grains of truth in them and then I would say warp it. I don't know where I'm going. Mark, save me. You look like
No, yeah, I think it's just the interesting thing that I think we continue to wrestle with. Like even Eric, when you brought up that systems are designed to protect themselves, my mind just jumps to scripture where it's like, but that's not, the church isn't designed to protect the system of the church. Right. The church is just like Jesus protects the church, and then the church just gives love and adoration and worship back to Jesus. Like that's the design of the system, is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. And so we've twisted the church into a system that protects structure or people or positions and titles over the actual purpose of the church, which is just so interesting when we think about, or when I think about, evaluating this question of, how do I, with some element of trying to be objective, look at the way I've been treated over years, or look at the way I've treated others over the years and try to ask the question like, man, is that too far? Is that overstepping? Is that stepping into an area of abusing authority or abusing scripture or whatever it might be? And look at the beauty of what God designed is that if I truly operate in what God's word has outlined, I don't have to worry about protecting myself, because it's not about protecting my position as a pastor. My goal as a pastor is to protect the sheep that God has placed me around. And then the goal of the church as a whole protects the sheep, yes, by pointing them to Christ. It's not about this element of, well, like, we have structures that are set in place that if you have an accusation of an elder, you have to go through the proper channels. You have to email this person and fill out this form and make sure you do it within 30 days of like, there's like all this formality that gets set up to protect, like you said, protect the system. And it ends up feeling so corporate, like a corporation rather than a community of believers. And I don't know, that's like a mind worm that's going to eat at me for the next week of thinking through the church has been twisted to now just try to protect itself, when in reality, it's about letting go of those things and pointing people to Christ.
Yeah. When churches come against accusations of any kind, they usually reach out to who?
The lawyers.
Lawyers. Do you know what lawyers do? They're only designed to protect the entity of the church business, its assets, in whatever capacity that would be, monetarily, reputation, books, music, whatever is being produced by the church, right? And that's the wrong people to be asking, because they're going to take in information and use it against whomever they need to, the lawyer perspective, to protect the church entity, right? So you're right in saying the church isn't supposed to be a system that has to protect itself from itself. Kind of like you go back to the analogy of like spiritual abuse and physical abuse, and it's all the same, and how the body reacts or responds. If you think about, I think we've heard this before, isn't the church the body of Christ, like the members of the church? What happens if a part of you is like hurting? Does your head go, what's wrong with you, toes that have just ran a marathon?
Yeah.
you're weak, or that's not what happens. You're like, oh my goodness, my feet are killing me. And, this is what I need to do to help recover from that. So I think in the sense of the church that is running parallel to what Jesus taught and told and spoke of, which is really hard things, right? Really difficult things. He's like, this is what you need. And it's really hard and it will cost you everything. And thank goodness the way is narrow, and the narrowness of the way helps me have boundaries, because I'm bumping up against these things that go, oh my gosh, I can't really do that. And all of us sitting here, we know that we have made mistakes. We've had to apologize to people. We are imperfect. And we're not sitting from a position to say, do it like we are saying. It's do it like God designed the church to be, which is when it's hurting, we help each other heal. We work together to it. Even in you have children, and if your child comes to you and goes, hey, I have a question about how we spend our money, you'd be like, you don't get to talk to me about that. Is that the way you talk to your child? No, you'd be like, hey, what do you mean? Like, give me what you're concerned about. I mean, that's a kind of weird example, but I think we would never, hand them a snake when they ask for bread, right? Like we wouldn't do that thing. And how much more does God love us? And we are supposed to be in him and him in us. And that's just a beautiful thing to stay in. Like we have to hide in that, not hide in power, influence, money, desire. Like those are things that are not bad, but they have to be ordered. And ordered by what? Ordered by the reality and the humility that no matter who walks in the door of the church, whether they are somebody who has nothing and they're looking for bread, and the person who is speaking from the stage, we're all the same. Like, how did we get so far away from it? One thing I love about the 12-step community is we're all here for the same reason. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nobody pretending that they have it all together. But we both have experience. I am the survivor of complex spiritual trauma throughout my life, right? And so in every system, it was, oh, if only I was like this person, rather than if only I was like, and some of that could be, that's my own dysfunction, right? But in these systems, it's like, you got to be like these people, this inner circle, this group. You have to accept what they're doing, as opposed to come and let us love and care about you, regardless of who you are and what you say, what you look like. Of course, once they're in, there's a narrow way. The best possible way is this. And just the act of wanting to do that over and over and over again with people is too hard for the church structure the way it is.
Yeah. I'm reminded of, it's in somewhere in 1 Corinthians when Paul's talking about the gathering. He's like, somebody brings it, everybody brings something. You're either running the love feast, you're bringing a teaching, you're bringing a prophecy, 2 or 3 will speak, you're bringing a song. It's flat. And also Jesus talks about the leaders of the Gentiles lord it over them, and it will not be so with you. And yet me professionally, for a large chunk of my career, who was going into churches and nonprofits, Christian nonprofits, was like, oh no, you should set it up like a business. Like you should have a board of people that have expertise in different things, get your lawyers around, do all the things. And when later in my career, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like the complete opposite of how we should be structuring our churches. But then it also reminded me of where I'm at right now in my own healing journey of, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase. Laura I didn't get to this because Laura's the wise one. Laura's my wife. If you don't know, we were at date lunch last week and she just hit the nail on the head where I am both like to get back into a church and to regularly attend, to get plugged in, to go serve, all of those things. I am worried on one hand because I am a very different person than I was when I was last in church.
Mm-hmm.
And I am worried that person will not be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Because that person would not have been accepted in most of the churches that I have gone to in my life. Or if they were those people that were there, those were the people we talked about behind their back about how difficult they were and how annoying they were. While simultaneously, I am worried that if I set foot in a church again, I will revert back to that good foot soldier who just does what he's told.
Yeah.
And I don't want either of those things to happen. And so, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. There's like we started off talking about how that's a physical manifestation of spiritual, physical, emotional abuse, right? Like it's like cultural appropriation. Like when pastors and leaders and elders are like, hey, we're this. And you're like, but you're not. You're stealing something that God has gave you and using these words to do self-serving things with. And it happens on small levels and large levels. And large levels, you see legacy of problems from leadership and the people involved with that leadership, families falling apart, people being hurt, and long-term problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about like, what do I do when I'm at this tension of this part? Like, who's going to love me? That's the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way of getting to love unless you are risking something for love. And now I would never, again, real clear, we're never going to praise the abuser and say, thank you for doing that. But somewhere along the line, each of us have had to look very closely at why we were the people who stayed. And it happened to us. What is that? And each person is different. But to have the grace and the strength to do that alongside of Jesus helping you is the very act of loving not just yourself and your family, but those people you now will come in contact with. Because your hyper, some say sensitivity, but it's awareness of what's happening allows you to be maybe the very element that could be cycle breaking for an organization. Right? I mean, that's the hope. It's like, no, bring healing to this. And we're always like Paracletus, the Holy Spirit is what? What does that word mean in Greek? It means counselor. And what is counseling? Counseling is I am sitting with someone, listening to their story and empathizing with what's happening. And if the story is off or something is not correct in the thinking, you don't start with that. You listen to the story. So if you are being really harsh, the loving person in a system of a church that's meant and understands its purpose is going to go, wow, okay, well, let's have some, let's talk about that at a time when you have time. And that's the counseling that happens with the inspiration and the covering and the grace and the breath and the fire of God, all in this little package of going, I'm going to empathize and listen to you. So when we talk about ourselves, like, boy, I got to dig deep and sometimes think about why, again, not saying what happened to me was my fault. That's very clear there. That's not what we're saying. In any abuse, it's not like, oh, I wore the clothing that was too alluring. I said the word that got me hit. Whatever. That's not the truth. That is a lie. But the truth can be, what is the thing that I think and hold on to or feel that allowed me to push off red flags for the sake of belonging? What is that? And I say it like that because I think about the people in my mind. I see their faces and I know their names and I hear their voices. And not everything I had interaction with them was evil. There was so much good also. But to parse that out very carefully and say, it doesn't give them permission. It helps me have understanding about it. Understanding for them, understanding for myself. And here's the thing that gets really tricky. And it's this word called forgiveness. And it's so, pardon me, bastardized in so many contexts. And forgiveness doesn't always mean relationship. It doesn't always mean trust. It doesn't always mean it's at the bottom of the sea. That's God's job. God can do that. I have to carry the weight of forgiveness daily. Every person who I've been harmed by, I have to carry the weight of saying, I turn them over to the love and care of Jesus Christ. Now, and that's the prayerful part, right? And it's not like, oh, let me call them up and see how they're doing. It's not that. Maybe there's a 1% chance that could be in the future somehow. And I leave that to God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus working in people's hearts because he's pursuing them, the hound of heaven, just like he's pursuing all of us here. And I trust that that's happening. And alongside, it's what do I do with, I have to carry the weight of forgiveness. And that weight of forgiveness allows me to enter into a suffering that is similar to the suffering of Christ. What? That's so like, I don't want that. And I know that his suffering is complete, but not fully, right? That one phrasing, I can't remember what it is.
Already not yet.
Yeah. And it's like, well, his suffering is almost complete. Like, wait a minute. He did suffer and died and defeated hell and did the holy jiu-jitsu, right? Like what happened? Like, what do you mean? Everything's great. The suffering's over. But there's a space in God that holds suffering still, which is our suffering. When we give it to him, we hide ourselves in him. Like I'm hiding in the rock, safe, right? That's where his suffering becomes complete because he's suffering alongside us and with us, and we give it to him. And each time, and again, I'm not praising abuse. You're not like, great, I got abused, now I get to suffer and I get to turn to God. Please, that's not at all. It's because it's a physical manifestation of evil in my body. I have to forgive. I desire to forgive another person so that I can hand my suffering to Christ. And he holds me and says, yeah, I got it. I understand. I'm with you. I was with you when it happened. I was with you before it happened. I'm with you after it happens. And that's where his suffering becomes complete because we continue to benefit from his act of love, which was to suffer. Anyway, so that's why it's so powerful and physical, because we cannot escape how it impacts our body when people harm us.
That's really good. I mean, even before you got into that, I was thinking, it's just like Jesus, like you're talking about the weight, like I get to carry the weight of forgiveness. I haven't thought of it from that perspective, but then thinking exactly the same, like that is what Christ did and does for us. Like we are betraying him. I am betraying him all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And like he carried that weight on the cross. But man, we're getting into some weird stuff here, but I don't know if I can scripturally back this up, but I doubt Jesus is just like in heaven, like, Kyle sinned again. Oh, well, I already paid for it. Like, I do feel like it hurts him because he knows the hurt it's causing me. Yeah. Just like when my kids sin and I know the hurt that it's going to cause them. Like I feel that. It's just really, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective before. It's really interesting.
Well, he is the wounded healer, right? Like he still bears the scars. And when he came to see his friends who thought he was going to probably zap them, right? Do the whatever, I would have been afraid as well. And he was like, no, look, come and see, touch and feel and see. This is Like that's just a fascinating, deep theological concept of what happens when we choose, like again, the body of Christ. What happens when we choose to look at our scars and not glory in them, ours, like that sense, because we're not God, but we're to say, oh, my scars, I can rub my finger over my scar and feel it. And now the nerves have all either deadened or come back together, and I'm not reacting. My nervous system isn't reacting. Like, that's a weird sentence, but I mean it in the sense of like going into churches now, like I'll still hear a phrase or see a thing, and I'll be like, and I'm off to the races in my head about all the things that are wrong with these people and this space and what's happening. I'm like, I'm rubbing that scar. I'm feeling that wound. And Jesus says, I'm here with you. Like, let me have it. Let it be, and that's through the act of, I need to go back and think about forgiveness. I forgive these people who have harmed me, not because I want to be close to them, but because I want them somehow with spiritual physics to feel God telling them that forgiveness is for them. Like forgiveness is still for the people who have abused us. And I'm like, whoa. And not me saying, let's meet for coffee. It's more of God is there saying, and think of how this has gone awry. Like so many examples in the Bible. One of the most striking examples in the Bible of physical, emotional, sexual, spiritual abuse is Tamar and Ammon, right? Like yeah. So
David's son,
David's
and daughter.
son, all right, and he's like, hey, I'm going to pretend to be sick and get her in here. And then he's like, I'm going to rape you. And she's like, don't do this. Don't do this. She says, it won't just harm me. It will harm you. And you think about back to I said like that abusive cycle, desire, wanting physical violence. And then the minute he did the act, he couldn't stand the sight of her and just threw her out and she pleaded again, don't throw me out. Don't do this. Don't bring shame and hurt and harm against you. And think of the legacy that was in place from that. Like God is able to heal things, but it takes a while.
I mean, that spiraled into Absalom. I mean, that spiraled into the rebellion that David went through and all of that, which all resulted from his original sin with Bathsheba. Like, which is like pulling on the threads of sin. My goodness.
Yeah, and truth will set you free, but not until it's done with you, which is so much work that goes into that. So, like, when we think about the church and we think about spiritual abuse, it's not just an open letter to the community that will fix it. That's the start. Like, naming the truth is the start. But then working with people and working with their harm and being alongside them, that's the work. That's the work. And that's the work of forgiveness. And that's the work of allowing God to be inside your mind as well. Like I often kind of think of like, oh, my heart belongs to Jesus. What about my mind? What about my thoughts? Like, what am I holding captive? What am I choosing to let your heart, don't let your heart be troubled. Don't let your heart be troubled, which means we have agency for what? Not just what we think, but what we're feeling as well. And of course, it starts with what I'm thinking leads to what I'm feeling. And sometimes it's that cycle and that feeling goes back. How often have any of us in this room, you don't have to raise your hands, we can, no one will see. When, you get that little bit of a hyper motivation, like not rage, but you're like spun up and you get a lot of stuff done in 30 minutes, but it's at the cost of everybody around you.
Yeah.
And how often do we like that? I do. I feel powerful. I feel like But I don't think that's what God has intended for me. That's the sin there is the failure to bother to love. I love that phrase, like sin is the failure to bother to love. And I'm like, okay, I cannot be addicted to or desire my negative behavior that lets me get stuff done in the name of productivity. Right? And that's a very small incremental step to recognize, to talk about, to give over to God, so that when I have to deal with much larger things, I've got this practice involved of how am I holding myself accountable? How am I renewing my mind? How am I holding captive my thoughts? How am I letting my heart not be troubled? Because we're all going to die. It's coming. And there's hope beyond that. And like, I really shouldn't be too spun up about anything if I really think about it. Because I have this hope in something greater.
Yeah.
Which is, but that's a physical, you have to work on the physical parts of that.
Yeah.
Right? You have to work on the physical parts of that. When you train for a marathon, you don't start out running 8 miles. You start out running 1. And you have to titrate it up or down. And based on, you have to get your body right over 12, 13, 14, 15 weeks. I mean, the same, if we think about how we do this process, if the church could just gravitate back to the idea of, if anyone talks about feeling some abuse or some hurt or some pain, it shouldn't be the system that takes care of it. It should be the people who take care, who say, what is it that you need? And I mean, I think about the elders holding pastors accountable. That's almost comical anymore. Not in every church, but in a lot of the churches that we know have suffered through abusive systems. They're usually friends or acquaintances or handpicked or some kind of, and now they end up protecting it's more sad than it is anything else, because it is the spiritual appropriation. Like, we're elders. So with this name, we have this power. But with that power, I'm going to quote something really dumb, but with that power comes great responsibility, right?
How dare you call Spider-Man dumb?
It's not dumb. This podcast is over.
I'm sorry. I love Spider-Man. But I meant like, I didn't mean to devolve to Comic-Con. But
yeah, who knew we would get spiritual advice from Uncle Ben?
Switchfoot did sing "Meant to Live." They did. So, but that is such a great example of, man. So the soil the church should be growing in is humility and gratitude, right? But that soil is only created if the truth is there.
Yeah. Well, to circle back to what we talked about earlier of the systems designed to protect themselves, and the church has kind of morphed into the system that just protects itself. And so I guess the thing I would offer to people as a takeaway, again, circling back to the list that we read of, if you've experienced one or more of these things, you might be in a spiritually abusive situation, or maybe you've experienced it. One of the ways that I think you can try, and it's just hard to like break your own brain from the cycle of protecting your leadership. But one of the ways is to just ask the question of like, when questions arise, can I tell if they're more interested in protecting themselves or in seeking the truth? Because sometimes you can protect yourself by seeking the truth. Like, if I'm truly innocent, the best way to protect myself is to seek the truth. Like, by all means, investigate, ask questions, whoever, look at the text messages, here's my emails, whatever. Because the truth is on my side. But if there's no interest in exploring or even seeking out the truth, if the moment a question is asked and it's just immediately met with resistance, that the fact that you would even entertain a question demonstrates some lack of loyalty or growth or whatever they might say it is. Like, that should be some sort of, maybe not an immediate red flag, but at the very least, like, the caution light should start to blink for you in whether that's your church or your family or the friend group that you're in or your workplace or whatever. Like, if you're not allowed to ask questions, that's a problem. And when you do ask a question, this would also be an encouragement if you're in a good church. Like if you're in a place where they just care so deeply about letting scripture guide what they're doing, and they care about the truth, like what a great encouragement, like what an awesome church to be a part of. Right. But if that's not the case, man, it's going to be hard in that situation. But like when people tell you not to ask questions, that's usually when you should start asking more questions.
Right.
Which is hard.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh,
No, you're good.
Have you heard of the action reaction perception lag? And it's in relationship to like when police officers go on scene and there's someone has a weapon. It's the 21-foot rule, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the idea is like, and I don't have the numbers right, but like if you have your hand out, Kyle, and I'm like, I'm going to hit your hand. I'm going to hit your hand. Move your hand. I'm going to hit, like, he can't move his hand fast enough because I know when I'm doing the action. Sure. His reaction time, like my action is like 0.012 and his reaction time is 0.34. And in that area, your perception of what's happening as a person who has the reaction is slowed. So everybody, the abuser has all of the angles, all of the direction, they have this power in the moment over, right? And our reaction time is never going to match that. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything. I mean, like over time, you should be asking questions. The Jesuits have this beautiful casuistry, which is like, you have to descend into the particulars. And it starts by understanding inordinate loves, meaning I have to be completely neutral, right? So in the case of like a year ago, I couldn't have had this conversation without either crying or sweating, right? Because I couldn't have been, I'm not objective enough. Wasn't objective enough about it. And so the point of the pendulum, like the scales, is inordinate attachment, meaning I release things that could cause me to be imbalanced here. So for us, probably like, you're a pastor, right, Mark? Mm-hmm. So if you're reading something about a pastor doing things, you can be like, oh, I'm really like, it's going to be really difficult, right? But if we can let go of the inordinate attachment to the frustration, pain, and honestly, for me, be judgment against that person, then I can descend into the particulars, and it's not less than, but it's more than just right and wrong. Like wisdom is a uncommonly loving response to things without being pulled into either. It's not just right or wrong. It's more nuanced than that, which sounds a little bit like, oh, you're kind of move things so you can do what you want. That's not what wisdom is. Wisdom is there may be more here to learn. Let me, like the casuistry says, like, let me balance it let me detach from this enough to have objective information and to receive and to give objective information. Where do we find that? We don't find it very often in these systems. We may find it in a close friend. We may find it in a spouse. We may find it in other spaces where people say, you are of the value that I'm most concerned about. Like I value you more than the outcome of this conversation. And so in churches, that may be missing wholesale in a lot of spaces that again, not all churches are doing this wrong. Some churches are working incredibly hard to do this. But the churches who have to risk reputation or to risk, I don't know, is it building fund? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't want to speak into what people are struggling with. Or maybe just plain old, like, I don't want to be wrong. But the elders could be the space where that is, right? instead of running parallel to the pastor all the time, maybe the elders are this separate entity almost to where the pastor reports to in a loving community, just like our body. Like, hey, knee, I know you got hyperextended because you thought you could play volleyball at 55 years old. Maybe that was a mistake. Let's talk about that, right? Right. I'm not going to that if we're using the same analogy as the church is the body, like that's And with God's the head. The recapitulation of Jesus Christ is, I have the mind of Christ. I don't completely understand how I can have that, but if I want to. If I desire it, I can have the mind of Christ, which is maybe understanding things beyond my normal ability to comprehend as who I'm, my makeup. Like I'm not the smartest, sharpest knife in the drawer, right? Like I've got to, if I can submit to that, then he can help me figure things out. And then that wisdom comes in, which says, okay, maybe there's more to see here, understand here. But that's a difficult thing to have happen.
Yeah, I want to circle back to something you said toward the very beginning, just in terms of a person just starting to walk through this journey of maybe sharing their story with someone for the first time. And you used a term that that's again, it's like a mind worm. It's stuck in my brain, where you need to it starts to metabolize the trauma of the things that have happened. Can you walk through that a little more of what that could look like for a person that is maybe over the last few weeks, months, years, whatever, they're just in their own mind starting to come to the realization of, oh, I was raised in a church where all of the things I thought were normal, some people online are telling me is spiritual abuse, and I've never even considered that. And then you can't shake that feeling. And then maybe, you talk to a friend or a family member or just someone that you come across that is empathetic and wants to hear your story and just starts that process. What next after you share that story the first time and it just starts the process of metabolizing? What does that look like for someone to continue doing that? Do I just find other random people and tell them my story too, and then I get more healed the more I tell my story? Because that's how my brain likes to work, is how do I get better faster?
Right. Yeah.
What box do I have to check so that I can get better? And then in 6 months I'm done.
I do think the first step is, of course, talking to God. And I think the easiest segue into that is when you're feeling the shame, because that's what we're really talking about. And you're having that cognitive dissonance or emotional dysregulation. It's like, God, Jesus, I love you here. I love you here. And like that phrase, like, I want you here, I think is the starting point. And then I think there's strength that comes from that, which is like none of this happened to us or to whomever we're talking about, this archetype person, we're talking about the spiritual abuse person, the victim, it happened in community. And shame is dismantled in community, which means shame doesn't have its power when there's empathetic witness. So when we tell our story, like if we were talking about, I told you a story about my younger spiritual abuse story, you would sit and go, I'm so angry about that happening to you at that age. Like that breaks my heart. That empathetic witness now extracts the power of that story. And instead of it being this repetitive thing I tell myself about what happened, I can restory that. And it loses its power. And that's where the truth comes in. I can restore it. So if you talk about the person, what do they do first? They need to find somebody who they know can be an empathetic witness, someone who's going to listen. And usually it's probably not somebody who's really close to the situation, because we're like we said about casuistry, I'm too attached to my loves or my desires in that situation. I'm inordinately attached. So instead of being detached, so finding someone who can do that. That's the first thing. And then I think And we've had to do this, I know, because we've talked about this before. And the phrase is, and I stole this from somebody else, which is aggressively curate your inputs. Which is be careful what you constantly focus on. We can do nothing about the price of gas right now, no matter how much we talk about it, no matter how much we think about it, no matter our political stance, no matter what, it doesn't matter. So like to be distracted by, and that's another voice, like we talk about the evil that can kind of whisper in our minds, right? Like that's another voice saying, be focused on all this other stuff. And we're all like emotionally like mixed up. We can't get to the calmness of talking to somebody and having them hear our story and then have them tell us back our story. So be careful about what we choose to input. Like for a while there, I couldn't listen to Christian music, like praise music.
I still can't.
Okay. Right. So, and the reason being because it would take me off into another direction. I'm like, well, let me curate what I'm inputting. I'm going to listen to William Augusto, soaking music. It's like, it's just music.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so more relaxed right now. Like I'm not overlaying my other experiences right now. So those practices too, like curating what you put in your mind, like thinking about it. Again, it goes back to how can I get to the point where I can not let my heart be troubled? And how do I hold thought captive? It's practice. It's lots and lots of practice. And it's a lifetime of doing that. But if we could encourage that in a church, like, hey, here's what you're going to do, man. You're going to do these practices over and over and over again. There's all kinds of things out there that can help us do that. But that's the thing that I think that will bring us to a point of, again, that soil we want to live in, the truth of humility and gratitude. We're like, okay, all right. Then I can see things more clearly.
Yeah, it's reminding me as you're talking about, like, just right off the bat, just like take it to God. I'm trying to find the book because I literally just got rid of it off of my Spotify not a week ago, and now I can't remember what it is. But of course, they were on Remnant Radio because that's where I found it. Man, I can't figure. All right, but in the book, if I find it, we'll make Mark throw it in the links or something. But he talked about how we've just stopped being honest in prayer, and we think we are. Like I thought I was, but like post Radiant stuff, like I was not able to pray for long periods of time because I would just get so angry. And then listening to this guy talk and then reading his book, or listening to his book, because I hate reading. I just got like, he was like just being honest of like, oh, okay, I'm going to do a terrible job. Go get the book when I tell you what it is. But of like, oh, I'm angry. Okay, God, why am I angry? Like when you're praying, it brings out your heart. Like he references all these things in the Psalms where it talks about like praying pulls out what is in your heart. And like, okay, that's anger in my heart rather than suppress it or stop praying because I'm uncomfortable. Like you're not supposed to like be mad while you're praying. That's not allowed. Welcome to how Kyle's brain worked. To rather just be like, oh no, I'm angry. So I'm just going to be angry in God's presence and allow him to drill down to why that is. Okay. Then it eventually morphed into being sad and depressed as I'm praying. Okay. Why? What's the heart thing behind there? How do we dig down to that and not also we're not praying so that I can fix myself, but then just being able to be in God's presence as I am angry, as I am, name the emotion. And that opened the door for me in my healing journey to be able to pray again, honestly, more than just like little bits. My prayer life turned into little bits all the time, which is not bad. I think it was a very good thing to learn. But I'm preferring my both and situation now where I can pray a lot, like in long periods of time and short and all the time.
And anger is definitely, I know you probably heard this, it's a secondary emotion, meaning anger is usually in its best form is against injustice, right? Like that's wrong. Jesus was angry because of the injustice. Now there's something something is behind the anger, and it's almost always sadness and fear. So the sadness is part of the metabolizing process. Like grief is a normal process. It's not like you do it and you're done. It's cyclical. You go back and you learn how to release more of the sadness and fear by grieving again and again and again. We don't like that in our culture so much, right? But it's the method of, I'm saddened by that. That's painful. I'm hurting because of that. And then because that lets you release the suffering. Again, it's like forgiveness and letting Christ have our suffering. And then the act of doing that again and again and again. Although it feels like heavy lifting, and it is, it's more than that. It's also an opportunity for us to have the indwelling of the Spirit in us in ways we wouldn't normally have that. So psychologically speaking, it's storying what's happening. Like, oh, I'm so mad because that person abused me. Yes. But what's behind that? Over time and grief, it's like, I'm so sad that I've lost the care of someone who I thought cared for me. That's suffering. Give it to Christ. He holds us and keeps it. And now there's some way we can have this person, X, put anybody in that spot, giving them over to God. And somehow spiritual physics is happening where they're going to be getting that. Pascal says the gift of causality, prayer. Like we have the gift of agency when we pray. And like that is like, I want something to happen. And sometimes it's, I want the piano to fall on them. That's probably not the best thing to pray, but it is something that God understands. And we say, oh, behind that, I'm just so sad because I've lost that, lost something. And that starts to undo the way our body reacts. And you know, when you're like really tense and what happens, your breath becomes shallow, short, right? And that elevates your heart and that tenses your muscles and that gets you in a state of fight or flight. It like gets you in the state of aggression, right? Yeah. And so there's, like if you're a person with ADHD, breath work is really hard, just FYI. Because you're like, I ain't got no time for that. Like, I don't have patience for that. But if you sing, that's breath work. So in those moments in the car when I'm weeping and singing, it's breath work. And I'm releasing that. And my heart rate goes down and all those things happen. All those things happen. And it's the beauty of how God designed us, which is the beauty of how he designed the church to be, which is the beauty of how he designed the world to be, which is we are meant to heal. We're designed to heal in every capacity, spiritually, emotionally, physically. We are meant and designed to heal. And it's a process.
Yeah.
Circling back to something else, that's what we keep doing. So you're dropping so much wisdom. So finding like an empathetic witness.
Yeah.
What would you say are your advice to someone who tried that and got someone who was not an empathetic, who went to their pastor or went to somebody else in the church and got the hammer down?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Well, first, I'm so sorry. Like I know that pain. That's heartbreaking. And it makes you not believe in anything anymore. And the absence of hope is, I don't believe in God. That's what that is. And it's okay to have that at times. I would say find somebody else. And if you have to, and someone outside the church may be the best option, someone not directly connected. If you want to go to a therapist, great. If that's something that you feel comfortable doing, some anonymous stuff, there's lots of things you can people have some really beautiful people have podcasts out there and have programs, and you can email and get some of the response. I remember way back when some really intense spiritual abuse things. And I remember reading this book by John Eldredge. It was Waking the Dead. And it was like, it's all I had. And I was like, I have no one to talk to, but I'm reading this book. So, back, I think this is maybe just when the internet started. I don't remember. And it's like, I got the email somehow, and I wrote an email, and they wrote back. And I was like, oh my goodness. I feel like in some way that saved a part of me from dying forever. Like right there.
Wow.
I was like, oh man. So that's those spiritual physics things happen in ways we can't anticipate. And it's believing in something other than ourselves. And I think putting ourselves under the constraint of, I don't have it figured out. Like the paradox of freedom is, of course, if you want freedom, it's not limitless. That's hell. What constraints are is I put myself under this constraint in order to have the freedom of something other. The greatest example is marriage. You can be right or you can be married. Which one do you want? Right? It's like you have to choose to be under the constraints of, I love this person. I want good things for them for their sake. That's what love is. And that gives you the freedom of having someone you can trust. And it doesn't happen any other way. Yeah, it's a powerful, no wonder Jesus used marriage as an example of how he loves us, because it's hard. It's hard with great rewards and great sacrifices. But yeah.
Obviously, you brought up the analogy which Scripture brought up. So, we'll give God the credit where it's due. Good job, God. Relating the church to the body, and I just have like this image going through my head of the body is hurting itself. Like you have spiritual abuse taking place within the church where the hand is grabbing a hammer and hitting its own foot. And you have this damage that's taking place. And to your point, like that damage that we often talk about as just, it's just emotional abuse, or it's just spiritual abuse, can manifest in physical ways. And one of the things I was thinking about as we're talking is like, there's an actual wound that exists for people, that is created through whether it is big T trauma or little T trauma, like whatever the experience that the person has had. And so in this process of thinking through, or processing, how does a person, find an empathetic listener, share their story, go through this process of sharing and recovering and taking thoughts captive and going through that, like, I think one of the things that took me the longest time in my own, process of intentionally seeking healing, it's actually acknowledging, like, I have a gaping wound in my life, that I have spent so much time in so many different spiritually abusive situations that it never even scarred because it just kind of stayed open. And it was like I got a cut, and then I just kept through experiences, some of it of my own accord and some of it from the accord of leaders that I trusted that I shouldn't have, or that broke my trust. Was like the scab kept getting picked, or the bandage kept getting ripped off too soon, or things kept happening where you just have this open wound that doesn't even become a scar because it's just, you're constantly rubbing the gaping wound against the thing that hurt it in the first place. And the longer I denied that, it just won't heal because you're not acknowledging the reality of what's taken place. And again, that goes back to your earlier question, Eric, of like actually sitting down and wrestling with why I stayed. Again, not to put blame on the victim for being in an abusive situation at all, or even staying in an abusive situation, but actually asking the question of, I recognized in my church experience growing up, I went to the church that my family went to, so I didn't really have agency to leave. But I became an adult at some point and had, experiences in college and after college and stayed in all of those churches. That doesn't formulate into an actual question or a statement, but more so just, again, putting it out for people of in this process of healing. Like if you're healing, there is a wound that you're trying to actively recover from. And so the longer you deny the existence of a wound, the longer it's going to take to actually get the care that you need, because you're going to keep doing what I did in my own spiritual journey, which was, well, there's not really a wound, but I'm going to try to take care of it by just being a better person, by doing more for the church. That must be the problem. Like this shame that I'm feeling is because I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough, or I did too many of the wrong things and now I need to do more of the right things, which ends up just keeping the wound open longer and longer, and it makes it hurt more.
Yeah, there's a book by Andi Kohlberg, and she says in the book, it's called Try Softer. We tend to be muscle through pain, and sometimes that's the antithesis to healing. So resting in something, how do we rest in something? You have to intentionally do that. You have to set limits to do that. And so that is, I think, having grace for ourselves and, like you said, never praising the abuser and never saying we're responsible for what they did to us, but also realizing that in this cycle of somehow we were serving something in ourselves when we knew something was wrong and we couldn't say. Again, it's a very hard thing to talk about because it's not to flip the script at all. It's to say, in that process, that's the chance for healing that will unseat the shame in us. And there's this is a very delicate practice. You got to be very careful because this isn't like for everybody, and you have to be very careful about what state you're in. But if you're in a relatively homeostasis, state, and you're feeling comfortable, and you have this thought of like the fear thing, like if you're going to go into a really difficult meeting, right? A hard conversation. And sometimes we have a lot of hard conversations with ourselves. 70% of what goes on is what we're talking about to ourselves. It's not actually what's going on externally. It's what I'm thinking, or what I'm thinking about what that person might be thinking, or what I'm thinking while they're talking about me talking. And maybe they're thinking like, oh my gosh, right? Maybe I'm the only person who does that, but I think that's science would say that I'm not the only one. But in that, it's to rest in knowing I have to let go of control. And there's a method of sometimes letting go of control. If the thing we're most afraid of, or we're most scared of, or the fear, whatever it is, if you can narrow it down to a sentence or a phrase that's definitely less than 10 words, and you repeat it. Here's a good example. Like say, going to the gym, and I don't want to see the one person at the gym who I know doesn't like me, whatever. Okay, that's a fine example. I don't know if there's someone out there who doesn't like me to go to the gym with. I'm not thinking of them. I'm just saying, if I go there and I'm like, if I'm anxious and spun up about that, what I can say to myself is, what is the fear there? My fear is they don't like me, or I'm unlovable. I am unlikable. I'm unlikable. I am unlikable. It's 3 words. Right? So you're like, I say it out loud, like 10 times. Oh, I'm unlikable. I'm unlikable. I'm unlikable. That's interesting. Like now it loses its power because we've spoke it out. I'm not saying that's not a spiritual practice so much as it is a psychological practice of going, if I'm keeping this thing in the closet, if I let it out and let the light into it, I'm like, oh, maybe that seems kind of ridiculous. Am I really unlovable? Well, at times I'm like, and then we start to have this conversation with ourselves, and it lets us be less activated. And that's a good start in some places if you can handle that. But
yeah, just what you're talking about reminds me of what my EMDR experience was.
Right.
Of, okay, let's narrow it down. What are we going to deal with today? Oh,
Right.
we're going to deal with, you think the world isn't safe. That was
Right.
my thing. The world is not safe.
Right.
All right. And then we work through that to now where I still don't like when planes fly low overhead.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't like when I'm in a crowd,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm no longer triggered. I'm no longer in fight or flight anytime that that happens. I can be in it and survive. Even if I don't enjoy what is happening, I can still do it, which for me has been massive growth. I'd still love to, not just be upset every time a plane flies over, but that may just be where I'm at for now or for a while. I don't know. Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. It's interesting because that's exactly what my process was for that, of working through, okay, what is that thing? Why is it there? And then like getting to the point where, yes, the world isn't safe, but that doesn't mean I need to be triggered every time I'm in the world.
Right. Yeah.
The world isn't safe, and my body will activate when it needs to activate when I am actually in danger. Mm-hmm. So just interesting.
Yeah. It's very good.
And even just Mark, your wound thing, it was reminding me back in like talking about like the spiritual wound, an emotional wound versus a physical wound. Like in college, I tore my hamstring. And I played soccer in college. I was playing again way, way too soon. And like, I still have a lump on my hamstring of scar tissue because I came back and I played way too soon. And so like that damage is always there. And because I played way too soon, like I had finally gotten to where I could dunk a volleyball. I was like so close to dunking for the first time in my life. And then I tore my hamstring and I never got close again. And so like even just the lasting physical damage, because it's something silly, but because I didn't allow it to heal, I just kept going. And why? For really digging into it, the fear was I'm already the backup goalkeeper. I don't want to drop further down. Well, guess what playing did? Dropped me further down because I couldn't actually play. I was hobbling around like an old man. And so it's just what is reminding me of, like, we think of that with our bodies. So what happens now that I'm old and can hopefully learned a little bit, when I sprained both of my feet on the same night doing martial arts, what did I do? I stopped doing things for a few weeks so my feet would heal. Because I learned my lesson. So hopefully, as I've walked through this, like you said, I'm not thankful for the abuse. I'm not praising my abusers, but just like with anything hard, I wouldn't volunteer to go through it again, but I'm glad I did for where I ended up because I was not an empathetic listener. And now I am. I was not someone who would... I thought I was someone who would stand up for what was right and true. And then when you're actually presented with it and you're like, oh, I didn't. Like, here's this time I didn't. And this time I didn't. Oh, and this time I didn't. You're like, oh, I actually wasn't that. Where now I feel I am that person, or at least moving in the right direction in that. So I don't know. Just my random musings of Kyle going through his head.
That makes sense. And related to the idea of we have to loosen our control over things that we errantly maybe thought we had control over. And that allows for, I think, the beautiful tapestry that Jesus weaves together. There's a story that's still being played out. And the story is truth spoken calms the chaos. Tohu vabohu. He spoke over the waters, which is always things fascinating because, like, he created it and it was chaotic. And then he spoke over it, and then it had order. And not order as in it's got to be 1, 2, 3, because that's more control. But order as in it has creative elements. And we know if you create anything, a spreadsheet, a sermon.
Why'd you point at me?
I don't know. I just trying to think something. You create a song.
As creative as Kyle gets.
Wrong.
What happens in that process is you have to surrender to something to do it. And then you're ordering something, which that's why it feels so good. And then it's creating something. So God spoke over the waters to create, to make order, and then have the chaos have no power or dispel. And then he spoke again, over people and ordered it. And what happened when people didn't want the order?
Yeah.
They don't wanted the order the way it was. They don't. That's not the kingdom I'm looking for. I'm looking for this kind of kingdom, and that's not. Evil wants to kill it. Evil wants chaos. And so in our own bodies and our minds, if spiritually speaking, which is physical abuse, we have to order that by giving our loves to God and helping him order it. And if it's, I need to have this happen, this person to say this thing in order for me to no longer feel the pain of that abuse, we may be pushing in the wrong direction. Because God can weave stories throughout things that we had never anticipated if we let him do it. And all the most beautiful things, if you can think about them, have happened in your life, is you had nothing to do with it. There's no control over it. And you're like, wow, like the gratitude and the beauty that comes from that is heavenly. It's holy.
Yeah. Well, there's something so key, I think. I mean, even just in the conversation we're having, it's like, man, it like helps put peace in certain aspects of, like, Kyle and I have been talking about this for years, of the abuse that took place at Radiant, the abuse we've had in different areas of our lives, and constantly circling back to the conversation of like, man, like, how do other people not see it? Like, what do we have to do to get someone else to say, oh, yeah, I saw it. I acknowledge it. And I will leave as a result of what you've said to me. And trying to think through, like, man, like, what question do you ask? What story do you tell? Like, what do you have to do in order to get that, to unlock in that person's brain? And even in this conversation, it just puts peace to, like, that's an aspect of control that I have so much trouble letting go of, because I want to control that person's life and tell them I'm right. I need you to acknowledge that I'm right, and I've been right for a very long time, and I'm trying to help you. So I need you to acknowledge that I'm right and get you out of a dangerous situation. But that's not, there might be good motivation in that. I want to help that person, but it's not an element of control that I remotely have, even in my own life, let alone everyone else's life around me. Of just letting go of that piece. And I think there's an aspect of that where we talk about, in the church world, it's a very Christianese thing to say, like, you're responsible for planting the seed. You don't save people. God saves people. You're just responsible for being a faithful witness. And I think that's just talked about so often that we're just desensitized to, like, I don't know if you feel that way when you can see people in front of you that are in danger. It's really hard to let go of control when you just want to step in and, like, I've got young kids, and if they're running into the street, I will run and stop them. Like, I'm going to take control away from you to save you. But I can't do that for my barista who doesn't know the Lord. And I can't do that for my very best friend that's not my best friend anymore, because they refuse to acknowledge a situation that is hurtful and abusive. And that's just a really tough thing to actually live out. But it is so, like, it just, again, just to reaffirm what we've been talking about, it's just very helpful to put that into words of releasing that control, not to, to put it back to what we were just talking about. I'm not releasing control to the chaos. I'm not putting my desire for what I believe is best for this person back into a chaotic world. I'm releasing that control back into the hands of the one who creates order, and trusting him with the rest of that story and whatever part I can play in that story.
That makes a lot of sense. In the truth. Go ahead. Yeah, no, that's great. It takes me in the direction of talking about the truth, in the sense of, we all know our version of the truth. And I want to be careful, because it's not like we're making it up.
Yeah.
Our experience of what we know the truth to be. But we don't know the whole truth, because we can't. It's not possible So the truth that we want to offer people is the truth of not this is what happened and what this person did in this church and how they treated me and what happened. The truth is God loves us and he wants something more than this. So the sower, if we want to be like the sower, like Jesus is a terrible farmer, right? Like he's throwing that stuff everywhere. But because he wants everyone to have it. And the story is not everyone's going to want it, but I will give it anyway.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so the truth is to people, it's a salve that they have to choose to accept and apply themselves. It's not a syringe I plunge into their neck, which I want to sometimes do that.
Sometimes I do that.
Sometimes, and then I got to,
later.
because their body will reject it, I think. But it's like, it is, and love is invitation only. And like, that's what, if we think about all the abuse that's happened, it's the absence of love.
Yeah.
It's been extracted from the system it's supposed to be living in. And we're like, that's the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you counter that with literally God is love.
Right.
And the tragedy that it is absent.
Right.
From what is supposed to be his body.
Yes.
Oof. Yeah. And I mean, circle way back. That's where I have a desire to be back in a community of believers regularly, whether that's a Sunday morning gathering. I don't know yet. I'm not that far. But as again, in that conversation I was having with Laura last week, I was like, it feels like I'm on a hamster wheel because I have the desire for that. And yet, like you'd said earlier, in order to give or receive love, it takes risk. And having been burned by risking it before, it's that step of like, I know that in order to do this, I have to step and I have to take the risk. And right now, I'm okay not doing that and being like, you know what? We're just going to sit back and continue to heal. And I hope that someday I can and will take that step and hopefully not get burned again. Obviously, I will get burned. Anytime you're in extending love, receiving love, you're going to get burned because people are broken and wounded.
Right.
But yeah, just, I don't know, just for those who are listening, who you're in that spot, because I'm sure you're out there, just be like, it's okay. I guess that hopefully it's okay. That's where I've landed for now. It's okay. I'm okay sitting here on that hamster wheel, realizing that in order to go further, I have to take a step and being like, you know what? I'm not ready for that step yet. I'm good here on my, I feel like in fact, I know I'm on a hamster wheel is good. I'm like, okay, I'm good here and I can take the step off when I'm ready.
Wasn't it C.S. Lewis said, you can keep your heart safe. You can put it in a box. You can bury it in the ground and there it will sit. Dead. No life. No access to anybody. Not a dog, not a person, not the sun, not the sky. Like, yeah, that's the other side of not risking. And that's just, and I've been in that space where I've had to pretend that I am happy for the people I'm living with because I don't want to harm them, but my heart is just broken. Just broken. And all the stories and all the things I would hear from other people about who I am and what I'm not. And I'm like, God, I have to turn this over to you because I will not be able to, what am I, and this is what I feel like he asks me all the time. What are you going to do with the people I've given you to love? And it includes the people who've abused me. And now I'm not saying he gave me the people to abuse me. He gave me people to love who chose to abuse me. That was not my decision. That was theirs. What do we do with that? Does it mean we stop loving? To stop loving is to stop living and to stop accepting Christ into us. And I think that's where the reality of maybe he won't know me at the end of my life if I'm not loving. Because the only way I'm able to love is him through me.
That was phenomenal. Anything else that you want to?
No, I mean, I do think about the people who have harmed me all the time, and I pray for them. And I know that there are lots of, you guys know, lots of misinformation about who we are and what we've done and the reasons for our motives, or even why we're talking together now. And I just pray the grace and breath and fire and wind of God over all of these things so they can parse through all of what's happening and feel his presence. Everybody. Like the really bad farmer Jesus is, he's going to love and throw the seed to everybody and hope that they accept it. Because that's all that matters. It really is all that matters. That's the transformation that I pray that happens. And give up control over someone writes me a letter. Or someone gives me a call. Or somebody tells me, sorry, you were right. Like giving it up every day. Because I'm like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
I
love that.
Yeah. And even in this process, we've had people ask us like, well, why did you go public? Why did you share this stuff? Be it our stuff, be it the Westwood stuff, if you knew it wasn't going to make any difference. And I was like, because or any like macro difference, it wasn't going to change the system.
Sure. Right.
And I was like, because I'm not here for the system. I'm here for the individuals, here for the people. And like, that's why we're doing this, or what I hope will be becoming a series of people sharing their stories of healing after abuse. Again, hopefully that we're reaching out to people. Because what I read, what people told me is all these stories are different. And now I'm in experience of seeing that of all the stories I hear, everyone's recovering differently. And so like you said, spreading the truth, spreading the seed, we're trying to throw it out there for all those who have been abused to say, hey, what happened to you is not okay. But there is a path to healing. And unfortunately, it can't be do X, Y, Z and you're good. Like Mark said he wants, like we all want. If we can just do this, then we're good. It is a journey. And what it has forced me to do is actually rely on Christ through it, not rely on my system that I had built, my systems in my life, my comfort to facilitate that. But when those were completely shattered, to rely on Christ. So I guess hopefully this is encouraging for those of you out there who have been through this. There is healing. I'd say all of us here are in the midst of it in various degrees and in various years out of direct abuse. But I don't know where I'm going with this other than it sucks. But and so far it's been worth it. Yeah. Mark, you got any closing thoughts?
I was just going to like to the question that we inevitably get every time we post something of like, why talk about this? Why do this? If it's not going to change anything, or you guys are just seeking clicks and fame, which is a hilarious accusation.
Yes, all 100 viewers. Yes, those are our clicks. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, there's better ways to get famous. But I think it goes back to our earlier discussion on ultimately, what are we seeking? Are we even in doing this podcast builds a system where Kyle and Laura started it, and then I leached onto it, and now Kyle and I have a system. And so if questions come against even the system of a podcast, Kyle and I have often talked about, like, if questions that come up against us, please ask them. We want to explore them. We want to, like, by no means do we are we even remotely arrogant enough to think that everything we've said, even on this podcast, is beneficial or accurate or truthful. And so if there are questions that arise, by all means, I will probably be the ones asking them first. Like, the goal is not to create a system that can now protect us from any type of spiritual abuse, but the goal is to have a system that seeks truth. And that's the benefit of even a conversation like this, where we can talk about spiritual abuse and the reality of it, but ultimately have a conversation that guides people towards the healing love of of a powerful God that can look at your situation where you've been abused, you've been manipulated, you've been taken advantage of, you've been demeaned, beaten down, and all of these things that happen to you. And the truth in that is God has never left your side. He was with you through all of that and desires to restore a stronger relationship with him through it. Again, not that he sent your abuser or that he commissioned your abuser to do those things, but he can redeem even spiritual abuse to build a stronger relationship and to glorify him, even if it's just as simple as understanding God will never abuse you. If that's the truth that we can walk away from, if that's the truth that I can walk away from, even in my own story, to just understand and realize that I've had many faith leaders that have abused me, and I can confidently enter into God's presence knowing that God will never do that to me. Mm-hmm. What a beautiful truth to rest in.
Yeah.
Any other closing thoughts, Eric?
No, amen. I agree.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to basically just turn into a conversation with kind of three of my friends, or two of my friends with me. Mark and Eric met each other, on the call today, but it was great. Thanks, guys. Yeah. One of the things I'm supposed to say, like, subscribe, pass this on to somebody. If you know people who have been hurt or abused that you think this might be helpful, send it to them. And again, not so we can get clicks, but hopefully that it can bring some healing for people. Or better yet, send them to better places than us, because they're all out there. All those authors that Eric was mentioning, go pick those up, go read those. Especially if you're like, I'm just gonna say it. For those who are like, oh, spiritual abuse isn't a thing, please go read some stuff first. It is. The experts are telling us it's real, so it's not just our experience. But anyway, sidebar. Thank you guys for listening, and don't know when we'll be back next. As you see, we're on a very erratic schedule right now because we have lives and jobs and other things going on. But we will be back at some point with another episode. So thanks, and we will see you then.